There you see it at Bush headquarters in Houston with 327 electoral votes for himself on the board by our projection, the president-elect. And
thank you all very, very much. Hey, Jimmy.
That's his son over there behind him. When did the Dukakis people realize that this was not a campaign about competence, but one about ideology?
Well, I think some of them realized it earlier than others, and I think one of those who was the last to realize it, unfortunately for the campaign, was Michael S. Dukakis. The poignancy of the postmortems, and I think the bitterness and harshness in some senses of the recriminations are going to be very, very strong.
So, in a phrase, what do you think we're going to be hearing from Democrats over the next weeks and months?
Well, you're going to hear a lot of bitterness toward Dukakis. Then you're going to have a fight within the party.
Let me ask you this, gentlemen. We've had 28 years of Republican presidents and 12 of Democrats in the last 40 years. So the guy who's there at the end has to be electable.
The presidential campaign of America's discontent.
More people are living in poverty. Unemployment is the highest in nearly a decade.
Who's to blame? The Republican president and the Democratic Congress point fingers at each other.
The American people have been constantly looking for an alternative.
Most have turned sour and cynical.
It's time for change. It's time for someone smart enough to know, strong enough to do, sure enough to lead, the comeback kid.
The third way arose from the winds of Thatcher, Reagan, and neoliberalism and said, we'll accept all of the baselines of global predator capitalism. We will portray our core constituencies.
What is it they're trying to do? They're trying to save the Democratic Party.
Governor Clinton, you have the next closing statement. Ladies and gentlemen, of all the people running, I've spent the largest number of years trying to come up with new ideas.
Now, what is the lesson that the Democrats and New Labour take? Well, you know what? We'll be even more fiscally conservative than you.
I want to reinvent government to make it more efficient and effective.
We can be the party of opportunity again, not the party of government.
Give up on the notion that there is such a thing as a public good.
The Tories didn't get everything wrong in the 80s. I mean, let's just be honest about that. Admit it.
Demonize the production of public goods and the agencies that do that.
A Clinton administration won't spend your tax dollars on programs that don't solve problems and a government that doesn't work.
I always thought this new liberal was a bit glib and a bit sordid, because if you, after 8 years of Reagan and 4 of Bush, to conclude that the main problem in American politics was that the Democratic Party was too much to the left, seemed to me a weird conclusion.
And it's a mindset that has been cultivated by a worship of nerdery, a worship of credentials, a worship of information without context, a worship of vague ideas about persuasion and debate instead of power.
Is it mostly about money?
It's about a lot of bureaucracy.
It's about all of it. Money is a problem, bureaucracy is a problem, but there is a lack of connection between process and outcome.
I believe in a politics that's more oriented around a concept of liberalism that doesn't fear corporate power specifically, but fears abuse of power wherever it comes from. Right? Corporations build apartments that people live in. They also withhold wages. They do good and they do bad.
The president came west this week to talk with high-tech leaders about issues like that. Last night, he dined with an elite group of Silicon Valley executives, including Google's Eric Schmidt, Apple's Steve Jobs, and Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg.
The Labour Party seems to be very close to the Conservative Party. There doesn't seem to be a way of distinguishing between the two.
You know, I suppose the difference is
I try to see the world as this really messy place. And that attitude, I think, requires letting go of this idea that the most important and most dangerous boogeyman of society are always corporations.
Because I want the Labour Party, for example, to be a party that's committed to enterprise and to business. And I'm proud of the fact, again, that there are business people today who find themselves perfectly happy and at home in the Labour Party.
And I want to ask Bill Clinton, I mean, in your state, you have a right-to-work state, you disempower labor unions. Workers can't organize collectively and get the protections that they enjoy in 30 other states. Can we really right the balance?
That traditional Democratic constituency has been completely left at the same time as the Democrats have made this pivot towards basically embracing Wall Street.
We are here today because Wall Street has a critical role to play in fulfilling Dr. King's dream of opportunity for all Americans.
You made 3 speeches for Goldman Sachs. You were paid $675,000 for 3 speeches. Was that a mistake? I mean, was that a bad error in judgment?
Look, I made speeches to lots of groups.
But did you have to be paid $675,000?
Well, I don't know. That's what they offered. So.
As long as they're playing the role they're playing in the Democratic Party, you're not going to see trade unions developing more power to give average working people the kind of tools and the clout they need.
They find economists who are friendly to finance, strategists who will tell you how to win, technocrats will tell you what works and what doesn't and what policies you can choose. And you create this kind of technocratic infrastructure that only talks about policy rather than politics.
I feel like when things get into a mass movement space, you tend to have a kind of an irrationalism, a movement toward extremes. People have this very strong instinct that like the source of a problem needs to be like a small villainous actor.
From the nation's banking leaders today, President Obama.
13 bankers were called into a room to meet with the President of the United States. They were told that they were going to be chastised, that this was going to be the opportunity for the President to vent the public's anger.
They headed some of the largest banks in the country. Throughout the crisis, they had received massive bailouts.
It really grates with most people that our tax money went to support these institutions. And then when the rest of the country was in the worst of the recession, you saw the big traders and the heads of the Goldman Sachs of the world walking out with these multi-million-dollar pay packages.
The president made it pretty clear when he talked to us, we're between you and the pitchforks, guys, and you need to just acknowledge that.
But as the meeting progressed, to their astonishment, it became clear the president was in no mood for confrontation.
And he says, right after that, what we have, gentlemen, is a public relations disaster that's turning into a political disaster. And I'm here to help.
Today, the Obama administration did indeed extend them an olive branch.
It looks like the country's financial giants may have turned a corner.
The president's message to them.
The bankers who left the meeting had already received more than $180 billion from the federal government, with almost no conditions.
No strings attached. I mean, everybody else, homeowners, everybody else who's trying to get a loan, everybody on Main Street, small businesses, not only are they not able to get loans, but if they get anything, there are huge strings attached. How, in good conscience, in good faith, can we not ask the banks, demand from the banks, some conditions upon getting bailed out? That just seemed incredible.
I agree there's some problems in the system, Jerry, but the key is to elect a president who will lead and work with Congress. I think that's even more important than anything you can say about organized interest groups.
And you don't necessarily have to wrap it up in a complex story that belittles elites or finds the bad guy or says, if a company gets relatively big, it's always evil.
At some point you have to win. Not everything, but you have to put winning first. And it has to stop being a question of, yes, I would like to sign the insurance companies out of existence with my pen. It would be sweet. But it has never happened in the history of this country that we've signed a multi-billion-dollar industry employing tens of thousands of people in every district in America out in one shot.